Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. And I hope you all have a wonderful new year. However, I woke up today to the news of this tragic event that has happened in the French Quarter in New Orleans. Um, there has been a mass casualty incident involving a truck that was ploughed through the crowds that were out just, celebrating New Year's Eve. And 10 people have sadly died, and 35 people at the moment have been reported as having been injured. And obviously, this type of case, we know that these numbers can change quite a bit. Let me just play this. So we're going to do. It's basically going to be a catch up from the beginning up to where we are, and there's going to be more updates, I believe, soon. But I just wanted to bring this to you because it is tragic. This sort of thing should not be happening. We've just had the attack on the Christmas market in Germany, and now we have this. There's a lot gone on with this. There's been some confusion with this, and kind of held off until we got the information as best we can in an order that we can sort of go through it. Because this morning the mayor was saying that this was an act of terrorism, and then the FBI was saying it wasn't, but they've confirmed that they are looking at this as an act of terrorism. And the person who drove the truck through the crowd is deceased. There was a shootout between him and the police, and he is dead. And obviously, so that there's no case to answer for him, he is gone. However, the investigation needs to be undertaken. There needs to be known if there's any associates, if he's associated with anyone, any affiliation with any terrorist organizations, the planning. They did find some improvised explosive devices in the area, which is bloody scary. Not only did he plow through the crowds in the vehicle, he obviously had those devices. So are there any more? Where does he live? Is there anything in there? Is there anything of concern that he's kind of put together himself that could be a danger to the neighborhood? So there's a lot that will go on in this investigation. Let me just press play, guys, and we'll catch up with some of this, and then I'll pause it as we go through. But as you can see, let me just.
And again, you can see those ambulances there in the far distance. I mentioned it a few times, but we are working with our local affiliates to gather some more information from that area. But yeah, a lot still left to figure out at this point as this is developing and breaking at this hour. Again, you can see reporters are walking into the frame. So I do want to take you out to this live image that we do have here showing kind of the skyline, an aerial view, so to speak, of the city of New Orleans. We'll take you back out to some of the live cameras here as we see those reporters step out of the image. And I do want to pop this up for you once again. This is from earlier on today, and it is just coming into our newsroom as we've learned from.
So as you can see, that's all from early hours this morning as this unfolded. I kind of wanted to do it from the beginning rather than kind of just from where we're up to, because then people can follow it and then get up to date rather than me just kind of coming on and going, by the way, this happened, boom, done, I'm off. I think it's important to share everything from the beginning when you're covering something so that you can cover it right through and people then don't get confused as to what's been going on.
From multiple media outlets in the area that they are reporting a mass casualty event there in New Orleans, French Quarter. Now, the number of fatalities at this point have not been confirmed. We are waiting for additional information, possibly a news conference to be held with police. We know they are very vocal. They do hold quite a few news conferences on various events that do happen within their city. So we expect there could be one called. Live Now from Fox has also reached out to the New Orleans Police Department, and we are waiting for some additional information from them. They have not given us that initial statement just yet. But as you can see, we do have those crews that are on the scene. We're popping between some of these live images that we have. You can see what appears to be just lines and lines of police on Bourbon Street at this hour, and reporters are walking around. They are speaking with law enforcement and trying to gather more details. But at this point, here is what we know from authorities. And I do want to warn you, it's preliminary, so it could change, and information is very limited. Looks like they're moving the camera, so I'm not sure if there will be a news conference or something of that nature getting underway. I did see a police first responder that did walk into the shot a short time ago. They might actually just be moving the cameras farther back, as this is still considered to be an active scene. We don't know if
Hi, Michelle. Yeah, this is the car incident in America. So I'm just going through some of the stuff that we had this morning. I've just seen Gypsy Rose Blanchard's had her baby. Welcome to 2025 to Gypsy's new baby. And all I'm going to say is, bless that child and God help it. I've just seen it in my mod chat. Gypsy's had her baby, guys. Which is obviously better news to report, obviously, than this, but this has happened. Yeah, there was something, but I don't think it's related in the same way. I think there's been a couple of car incidences and pavements involved, but I think that's more DUI issues. But yeah, this is just awful. So I'm taking it from the very beginning.
anyone is going to be charged. We don't know if someone considered to be a suspect could be in custody. So much left at this point to figure out. So we're working to gather those details with the Associated Press, Reuters, our Fox affiliates in that area. But a lot of different media outlets are reporting that multiple people are dead after the New Orleans Police Department reports that a car may have actually plowed into a group of people there on Bourbon Street. Now, we're talking about an incident that started to unfold around 3:15 a.m. local time at the intersection of Bourbon Street and I believe it's pronounced Iberville. The New Orleans Police Department not specifying how many fatalities they are. Injuries are unknown at this time. There are various reports that are coming in from multiple media outlets as we keep this live image up on your screen. We are hoping that there will be a news conference soon so we can bring you additional information as it does come in. In the meantime, I do want to head to our first 2-minute commercial break of the hour. We will have much more live coverage coming up on this story and others from across the country and the world in just
Very
a
interested
matter
in
of
this one.
moments.
Right, let's see if we've got any reports going on.
He says 23-year-old Kamel Hawkins, he has been charged with second-degree attempted murder and second-degree assault. The victim, a 45-year-old man, was shoved onto the subway tracks at the 18th Street station in Chelsea at around 1:30 p.m. local time. He was struck by a southbound number 1 train and rushed.
Press conference, actually. Okay.
Kind, yeah. Just trying to be like more positive.
That is all that has been said as far as social media goes. We have not heard from police or anything of that nature just yet, but want to pop up this live image. And we also have yet another angle coming in from the different local Fox affiliates there. But again, want to go over what we know as the incident happened around 3:15 a.m. local time at the intersection of a very popular Bourbon Street and Iberville. This is according to WGNO, telling that to Fox News. Authorities have not confirmed the number of victims involved in the incident just yet. Again, this information is preliminary. There's not a lot known, but we do know from our Fox affiliate there, WVUE, that a public concert had been set up there along Bourbon Street earlier on in the night as they were ringing in the new year. There were thousands of New Orleans visitors that were there. We're talking about not just people who live in New Orleans, but this is a heavy tourist area. So there were a lot of tourists there at the time. New Year's Eve celebrators awaited the final countdown to 2025 in the French Quarter. And we know that it was a chilly night of music. There were drinks, fireworks all along the curve of the Mississippi River. Tank and the Bangas and local brass band favorite Bonarama played the free concert that ended 2024 and ushered in the new year. So many people there as that was taking place. And the last 10 seconds were to be counted down as there was some glowing objects there at the Jack's Brewery building. And there was an object that was lowered across Jackson Square for folks who were out there. Tourism officials said that hotel occupancy rates were high in the city, both for the holiday and from an influx of college football fans who were in town for today's All-State Sugar Bowl. Between the patients that have been transported by New Orleans EMS and 10 fatalities, public safety partners are responding on scene. Updates will follow as they are received. A very vague statement coming in from police and from the city of New Orleans, as well as Nola Reddy. We're going to keep on top of all of this, no question, and bring you the updates. But the 8th District currently working what's known as a mass casualty incident involving a vehicle that drove into a large crowd on Canal and Bourbon Street. If you have ever been to New Orleans, you know that Bourbon Street is always packed with people, tourists, regardless of what time of day it is. There are 30 injured patients that have been transported by New Orleans EMS and 10 fatalities. Public safety partners are responding on scene, and updates will follow as they are received.
So, yeah, as you can see, let me just get back to there. The 30 injured were transported to the listed hospitals there: University Medical Center, Two Row Hospital, East Jefferson General, I can't say that, Ochsner Medical Center, and the Baptist Campus. I was just trying to get you guys the police press conference. We could be here all day looking at this. Obviously, all the governors and whatnot come out, don't they, and they speak. I just wanted to see. I guess at this point, they're giving information because they're busy dealing with the scene, and it's just unfolding, isn't it? Let me just. Here we
go. To us here, the media, as well as the citizens of New Orleans, as to what took place.
I know, and to take
you can hear all of those different affiliates have been doing those live reports. So we are going to pop this up and listen in.
Coming before you is our unified command, leading with our mayor. And Mayor Latoya Cantrell will start with her remarks.
Thank you.
Okay, just give us just a little space, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Good morning. First of all, we do know that the city of New Orleans was impacted by a terrorist attack. It's all still under investigation. You'll hear more after me. However, I have been in direct contact with the White House, with Governor Landry, and of course, a unified command who is present here. What I'm asking at this time are prayers for those who have lost their lives in the city of New Orleans due to this tragedy. In addition to that, I'm asking the public to stay clear of 8 blocks around Bourbon Street. Stay clear from Bourbon Street, 8 blocks around. Very active, and again, a unified command is in place right now. I'm going to ask Chief Kirkpatrick to give you an update. You're then going to hear from our agent in charge relative to the FBI. So at this time, Chief Kirkpatrick.
Thank you. All right. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to give you as much of the information I possibly can. We are going to give you an update a couple of times today. So we will give you just the basics this morning. All right.
I'll try and remember to pause.
We had this event started at about 3:15. It did involve a man driving a pickup truck down Bourbon Street at a very fast pace, and it was very intentional behavior. This man was trying to run over as many people as he possibly could. It was not a DUI situation. This is a more complex and more serious based on the information we have right now.
I mean, how much hate has someone got to have to carry out something like this? And that's just if they're just an average person that's done this. But if they've got improvised explosives and they're looking at this as an act of terrorism, they've probably obviously had some form of brainwashing as well, and they're probably affiliated to, an organization that's putting stuff in their head. But who has this much hate in their heart to do these things to other people?
With respect to numbers, we have right now, and as you already know, this could change throughout the day. We do know that there are 26 injured people who are at UMC Hospital. We know we have 4 at Turo, 4 at Oshner Baptist, 1 at Tulane. But even as I was walking out the door, I believe I have an unconfirmed additional people who have been taken to other area hospitals, possibly on the east side. But we will give you as many correct numbers as we can as the day progresses. It is a very tragic situation for me to tell you that we know we have 10 people that this man killed on Bourbon Street. That is why we do not want anyone on Bourbon Street today. Wherever you see yellow tape, please do not violate this tape. This is in order to protect and stabilize the scene. We have information to a certain degree of the demographics of those who are in the hospital right now. We do not know at this point how many could be tourists versus locals. But from the information I have right now, it seems the majority are locals versus tourists. What I also can tell you is that this man, this perpetrator, he fired on our officers from his vehicle when he crashed his vehicle. 2 of our officers have been shot. They are stable, and we will give you an update on them. I have yet been able to go to the hospital. I will be leaving here for us to go visit our officers. We have called in every officer that we have. We have so much appreciated our partnerships who have also offered us staff. Last night, we had over 300 officers out here. And because of the intentional mindset of this perpetrator who went around our barricades in order to conduct this, he was.
I have a question. What were the barricades? What were the barricades? Like, were they like heavy plastic? Were they concrete? Because obviously when Darrell Brooks ploughed through the crowd, we saw him just drive through the barricade, and they weren't anything special. They were just like, I don't know, they were easily driven through, obviously, and obviously with the Christmas market as well, they were driven through. So I just wondered what kind of barricades that they were. So it's just a question. I'm not sure, but it'd be interesting to know. But obviously he drove round them, which was a bit weird, bearing in mind he's completely smashed up. He'd completely, really smashed the car up.
Hell-bent on creating the carnage and the damage that he did. Because of the nature and the indices that we have on the scene, and we have enough information that the FBI will be taking over this investigation. And with that, I am going to be asking, this is the assistant agent in charge. This is Agent Duncan, Special Agent Duncan, and she has taken over this case on behalf of us and the FBI. As always, we will be in partnership with all of our partners. But Agent Duncan, if you want to have a few words for everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning. My name is Alethea Duncan. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge for FBI New Orleans. As Chief Kirkpatrick said, we'll be taking over the investigative lead for this event. This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is their improvised explosive devices that was found, and we are working on confirming if this is a viable device or not. As Chief Kirkpatrick said, we're asking everyone to stay away from Bourbon Street, specifically from Canal Street to St. Anne. That is my ask. Once again, stay away from Bourbon Street, Canal Street, all the way to St. Anne until we can figure out what is going on. Our goal is to provide you additional information at the 11 a.m. press conference. Thank you so much, and we will be in touch.
Yes, I will say that we want our community and our visitors to continue in.
Yeah, he had it improvised explosives apparently in the area.
There's so much to enjoy about New Orleans, and we are going to make sure that our routes in the Superdome are safe today for the game. And yet we had this tragic event, and we're sorry again to everyone in our community. But we do want you to go about the day, as we say, just stay away from bourbon.
Can
Okay?
you elaborate on the device? You did say something about the device.
We actually are not going to be taking questions this morning until we have more information. That's why we will give you an 11 o'clock briefing. So until then, please hold your questions. We will give you everything that we possibly can. Okay. So 11 o'clock, we will see you at the headquarters, and we will go again from there. Okay.
Chief, were the bullards engaged? Were the bullards engaged?
Right?
The device is confirmed?
Thank you all. We will see you at 11 a.m.
So, Megan, Rob, if you're still here with me, super.
All right, so there you have it, getting an
Right, I don't know if there was other updates, but you can just kind of see the scene that they were dealing with. Ooh, I think that's just a repeat, isn't it? I know there is another update, which I'm going to look for in a minute. That's what it's like in the day.
there, and they were both rushed to hospitals. They are listed as stable. However, the exact condition not known. It's not clear if they are serious but stable, critical but stable. That is still something that the police chief says she is going to figure out as she next, after the news conference, did head over to the hospital to speak with those officers. Not sure if we will get information on them during the news conference, but again, there are going to be questions that are asked, so hopefully these are just some of the answers that we will get. The FBI did say they found improvised explosive devices there, but they have not said if those devices were viable just yet. It's not clear if they could have actually exploded. That is yet another question that we're waiting to have answered. We're going to head to a quick 2-minute commercial break now at 8:20 on the East Coast and 5:20 on the West Coast. A lot more to get.
Let's see if there was any other updates, and then I'll see if I can find the latest updates. As you can see, a lot has unfolded in this. Like, President Biden has spoken, obviously. He's been briefed on this horrific news that the driver killed and injured dozens of individuals in New Orleans overnight. And the White House has been in touch with the New Orleans mayor to offer support. Now, the FBI is already on the ground supporting law enforcement in the investigation, and they're going to just obviously keep him briefed. You know, they always come out, don't they, for these. Is this a recent one, or is this morning's one?
As many people as he possibly could. It was not a DUI situation. This is a more complex and more serious based on the information we have right now. With respect to numbers, we have right now, and as you already know, this could change throughout the day. We do know.
He said that he had a behavior that appeared to be, quote unquote, intentional. The man was trying to run over, they say, as many people as he could. This was definitely not a DUI situation, and it's more complex based on initial information. Again, we know that the victims here were taken to 5
killed people there. This is a relatively
these are the barricades,
easy target for something like this. You have a man.
If these are the barricades, those barricades ain't stopping anything.
Massive crowd of people, and a vehicle can do extreme amount of damage as it did today, and it's very difficult to guard against it unless you put cement barricades to prevent vehicles from coming onto the road there. So what we're seeing now is just the initial part of the investigation. There's also been a report that there were explosive devices found at the scene. This is going to add another dimension, and it shows that this is a well-planned attack.
A lot of questions I have for you, but let's just go back to your initial comment about this being, you saying that it's a terror attack. Again, the FBI investigating this now as an act of terrorism. Is there a reason, though, why a bit earlier this morning they didn't outright come out and say, you know, we're investigating this as an act of terrorism? Is there a reason why they may not have done that? And now that this is an act of terrorism investigation, does that change anything?
It really doesn't change anything because they announced this morning that the FBI was going to be taking over the investigation. They did that at the press.
Well, hello there, Donna. Hello there, Ginger. How are you? You don't look crazy. Do you know what? We have stuff going on over here. You probably just don't hear so much about it. But there was the attack in Germany through the Christmas market, and now here we are, obviously over here in New Orleans, and this looks like they're saying this could be a terror-related incident, which could happen anywhere to any country. Terrorism doesn't care who it hurts, and I'm sure we'll get more information. There is supposed to be a press conference happening or happened, and just in case you didn't know, just letting you know, dipshit had her baby. God help it, is all I'm going to say. Apparently she had it on the 28th of December, and that makes that baby early, like quite a bit early. Ryan, that's all I'm going to say. Ryan.
Conference, and of course, if the FBI takes over an investigation, there has to be a federal nexus to that. And even if 10 people were killed, this would, if there was no federal nexus, such as a terrorism nexus, then the local authorities in New Orleans would be handling it. So the fact that the FBI came out immediately and said they were taking over this investigation, it really created a kind of weird dynamic when the ASAC said that it wasn't being investigated as terrorism. So I think she basically just misspoke, and they've clarified it since then. But now, what's the difference? The difference is if it's a guy who is just bent on killing people for his own weird purposes, the difference is what was there an ideology involved here, and that's the difference between a terrorist.
And that's what we need to know. Was this intentional by somebody who has an ideology associated with, I mean, the one in Germany threw us all, didn't it? Because that guy didn't meet the average terrorist behavioural characteristics. He did, he was a lone wolf with his own agenda, essentially, it seems. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that, the average person might have their own ideologies and then act out. The thing is, this guy is said to have had these improvised explosives, which, the traffic thing is a typical behavior that terrorists, that we know, that work alongside the ISIS group would normally do, and having the explosives or a weapon or a gun. And he obviously did have a gun with him as well. So God knows what he'd planned to do. God knows. But thankfully he had a shootout with the police and the police took him out. But obviously that's all going to come out, isn't it? All this information. The police have probably got so much information. But the thing is, if this guy's been putting shit together himself, in terms of improvised explosives and stuff, God knows what he's got in the place where he lives. Are those people safe in that accommodation? Do you know what I mean? This is the problem. It goes beyond just what we've just seen here. That's terrifying on its own. It's then, is there anyone else potentially involved here? Is there anything going on in his home that puts people in danger in the the neighbours and neighbourhood? He's brown bread, he's gone. Yeah, definitely. But the thing is, a lot of people, we don't know that they're suffering We don't know that this is going on. Now, obviously, for the average kind of person that's on the watch list, they're on the watch list, and people, they often foil things. But then you get the people that aren't on a watch list. And the guy in Germany, now, despite people reporting him with concerns from his behaviour and the things that he's posting and everything else, despite that, nobody did anything, and then he just kind of did what he did. Right, he's driven through a Christmas market and he's killed people. He's killed a child, and that could have been prevented. But I guess because he didn't meet the tick box, well, he's not. He's kind of anti-Islam, whereas our normal terrorist groups would be against people that aren't Islamic and don't take it to the extreme that they do. And so he didn't check the boxes, and so they probably just thought, oh, he's a bit of a wild card. He's just very vocal about what he's posting and what he's saying. So they didn't know that with him, and he got. And had they kind of did more, looked into it more, they perhaps could have prevented this. I don't know. I don't know if it could have been prevented. Because obviously you've got to have solid information and evidence to be able to kind of obviously pull them in, just because he's very vocal about his opinions. And there's a lot of vocal people that have opinions and they just throw them out there, and they sound more aggressive than they are, and they would never actually do half the stuff that they say that they're going to do online. So they obviously thought he wasn't a risk, and obviously he was. So this guy, we're going to learn about this guy. We're going to learn a lot of information about this guy. Is he a risk taker? Is he a lone wolf? Is he a part of a group? What has led to this? Was there signs? People will find this person. This is the thing. This dude's identity is probably already over X. In fact, let me have a look. Now, obviously, we don't expose people's identities until we get them confirmed over here. But I know what people are like on X. There's pictures of people already on the road. It drives me insane. Like, where people that have been injured, you can clearly see one of them is probably deceased. But people post that sort of stuff over there, and people start finding out who this person is, and people will start telling us all about it. Let me just have a look. It drives me insane. I don't want me in pain, do I? X is a bit of a law of its own, isn't it? Really? Yeah, so people are like posting pictures of people on there, right? So don't go looking on X if you don't want to see pictures of people, because there's one person clearly gone, and it's quite horrible. And they've posted it on there for everyone to see. That's someone's loved one. It's graphic. Just looking to see if there's any names. Oh, yeah, they do. They don't care. Sometimes they claim stuff that's not theirs as well. I'm not seeing any names, just seeing lots of videos. I mean, like I said, the video's horrendous. I don't know why people feel the need to post images like that. Do you know what I mean? It's really not necessary, right? It's really not necessary to be posting stuff like that, because it's someone's loved one. It really drives me mad. And then it gets reported, and then TikTok, they don't, not TikTok, TikTok would take it down, but they don't take it down, and they don't say that it's breaching the guidelines and stuff. So you can never show anything on here for Twitter, because it is just too graphic and gross. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just wondering. I just want to put something on in the background to play while we're here talking. start from there. I'll play it from there. Just make it look a bit better on the screen. It is Bad Gambler. It's absolutely horrifying. And like I said, on Twitter, you've got someone filming and showing pictures of bodies on the ground. And, you know, if you want to get updates, it's quite horrifying. Like, you don't have to search for it. You literally just put in and you're scrolling and there they are. I mean, there's one person that is, I'm not even going to describe it. It's horrific. And you see those things and you don't get those out of your brain, do you? They're there forever. But they're posting that and that's someone's loved one. And I'm just like, you know, come on now. Why feel the need? They don't even blur them out either. Do you know what I mean? They leave them on there, and then you just figure it all out for yourself, don't you? And it was quite a big truck as well. I'm just looking to see if there's been any names dropped yet. No. Twitter will get the name drops though. I'm telling you, when the time is right, Twitter will get the name dropped. Let's just have a little look. Right. Okay. So I'm just going to give you some updates. This is from the Daily Mail. Okay. It's not one of my favourites, but it's better than some of the papers. So what they're saying is the man who drove the truck into the crowd of New Year's revelers in New Orleans in the French Quarter, killing 10, has been identified. Oh, he's been identified. He's 42 years old, and he's been identified as Shamsuddin Jabba. He's a US citizen. The Ford electric vehicle was owned by another 42-year-old man from Houston in Texas. The truck had reportedly been rented out on Turo. Oh, God. And the police are in contact with the owner who listed it for rent. My God, like, who rents their cars out? I mean, it must be like is it their personal car or do they have a rental business? They must have a rental business. Jeez. So the gunman was killed by police after we know what he did. He drove through pedestrians who were partying. And the vehicle was reportedly carrying an ISIS flag and a chest with explosives inside it. I'm wondering if that's what's on the back there. Authorities investigating the mass incident say that the driver showed very intentional behaviour after driving in the crowds in the city's French Quarter before they got out and fired a weapon. Like, oh my God. Like, so, yeah, I mean, they've identified him now. They haven't identified him on Twitter, but it's been identified in the paper, and I've just read it to you. It's public. So, it could, well, I don't know, because he's ISIS, and the guy in Germany, he was anti-Islam. Like so he was kind of his own party, like he kind of was his own cult with no members. Whereas this guy may well now have an official affiliation to ISIS, but ISIS hasn't come out. He could still be a big ISIS fan and be a lone wolf, to be honest. Like, so he could, like, they might not be encouraging him to have done this. He might have just been a big follower and he's just decided to do this, get a vehicle, drive through you know, people that are reveling, because they're not going to be expecting it. But these things are not ever going to happen. It's just obviously they space them out and you know, they use the vehicles because they cause quite a lot of destruction and they kill very easily. Yeah, well, I think a couple of them might have been like drinking incidences. I don't think that I think they were more personal. I don't think that they were related. But the thing is, there's copycats in there, so they see something like this and they think, oh, do you know what? You know, if they know someone that they don't like is out with a group of people they don't like, they know that they can cause as much destruction with a vehicle, but forgetting that it causes a lot of fear as well. So you kind of have to like look at these incidences on their own, because the Germany one is an incident, but he's his own law to his own little cult. And then you've got the people that get drunk and just want to havoc revenge on people that have pissed them off. And then you've got this guy who we'll learn more about in the coming days, I'm pretty sure. Now he might well be a fully fledged member, and this was pre-planned, but we haven't heard that any particular terrorist organisations come forward and said, hey, you know, this is the situation. We take ownership of this. This is our dude. People rent out homes, cars, and sublet apartments that make ends meet. Ah, see, never even thought about doing that. Yeah, I mean, Birmingham has like concrete ones. Like, there's no one getting through them. No one. As you can see, the cameras around. People are running around helping people. I don't know if that person there is someone or if it's just rubbish bags. I don't know, but they keep these things, you know. At least where there is someone, they have blurred it out, kind of thing. These are the images that are on X that you can see, that are quite graphic. They've blurred them out, right? So whoever was posted this has posted this content. It's very graphic, but they have covered it up. Do you know what I mean? Let me just forward that, because we don't really want to be watching that, do we? Okay. Don't know why they feel the need to show that on the news. Yeah. Yep, they do, Ginger. They do. They do these for attention, and they have anger and control issues. Now it'll be interesting to learn if he's got family, children, a wife. If he's, you know, I mean, things are changing, aren't they, out there in the world? They are changing. You know, before we'd get mass shootings, which still occur, but people that are involved with terrorist organisations would come out with their Kalashnikovs and, you know, come in and cause mass destruction, and they might even have fake explosives on them, or they might even have real ones. You know, it's escalating so much. We've got situations where they might cause havoc in one place so that all of the services go to one place, and then they're distracted dealing with that, like they did in the Paris incident, and then something else kicks off. So you had the big loud bang and explosive down at the football area where they had the big football thing going on, and then they had the concert at the Bataclan, and there was a group of them gone into the Bataclan to take the lives of people attending the concert and cause as much havoc. But they were clever, because they knew that once they'd set off the explosive by the football stadium, that would distract law enforcement and the emergency services, and then they went off to start in the cafes and then into the Bataclan. It was very well planned, and they are getting more organised, and you know, even to the point where in some cases they will dress up as the police, and you think you're approaching a police officer, and it isn't, it's a terrorist, but you think that they are, because they are dressed as police officers. It's very scary world out there. You wait and hear what Trump, yeah, it's not nice to see, Bad Gambler. It's on X. It's not blurred out on X. It's not nice to see. So you know, I'm not even going to attempt to describe it. But so we've got a name. The outlet reported that Jabba was carrying the ISIS flag. Yeah, so we know. 2 Israeli citizens were first to be identified among the victims in the New Orleans terror attack. I mean, that truck was proper. Oh, when I look at how damaged the front of that truck is, it just gives me the heebie-jeebies. The vast majority of the victims were local, but 2 of the wounded were from Israel. People with offices in the Superdome, including officials with the Sugar Bowl and Sun Belt Conference, have been told not to come into work until further notice. Let me share the screen with you, and you can see what I see. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I think if you murder someone, you're not right upstairs anyway. So when they go for the mental health issues plea deal, I'm not, I've got that card to throw. Well, the thing is, if you take the life of someone, then there's an issue there already. It's deep seated, and you're mentally unwell, and so that shouldn't be a card because that applies to all people. But there are some where you do have true mental health where it can't, like, they're not themselves, like they are literally not themselves, like someone who is in a really bad schizophrenic moment where they are not themselves, they can't even hear themselves, they're hearing other people. So there is a difference in the types of people, and it is hard to get the mental health card thrown in because they do look at it very seriously. And for the majority of people, having anger issues or having a depressive period in your life and something made you snap is not a mental health get out of jail free card, thankfully. But there are the odd cases where someone is really unwell and they are not themselves and they have no control over what they're doing. Now, that's a serious mental health issue and that would have to be considered. But for the majority of people that carry out a murder and take the life of another person, they are not mentally well, right? Because mentally well people don't unalive people, right? And if you've got that disposition that you're going to take someone's life, then there's something not quite right there in the first place. Absolutely. No, you are right, Michelle Lee. You are absolutely right. And yeah, the downside of different beliefs, people can't live harmoniously with each other, can they? No, they have to turn it into some kind of war and hate. And yet, actually, for a lot of these beliefs, a lot of it is about love and forgiveness and caring for somebody and, just behaving in ways that is law abiding, that looks after other people, not doing things like this. But yet, that's what this turns into in some cases. It's really difficult, isn't it? But let me just show you the newspaper article. I mean, I feel for New Orleans. Like, it's really difficult. So this is like a map. Oh, great. So let me just put that there so we're not sat there looking at the screen. So at 3:15 a.m. you can see the suspect accelerated down Bourbon Street there, and then the truck plows into the crowd, kills 10, injures 35 at point number 2. And then at point number 3 on the map, you can see there was a shootout with police. 2 police have been hospitalised but are stable. Look at the truck though. And then obviously updates have been happening. I mean, they've blurred that picture out, but fuck me, they haven't done a very good job. They needed to blur that out properly. The city was working on barriers to prevent vehicle attacks. Bit late. Maybe they'll speed up a little bit, but a lot of places need to do that. If you're going to host something big, or it's a pedestrianised area where there's going to be a lot of people wandering around in the evening because they're drinking and whatnot, and there's restaurants, then you do need to have something in place. So they need to get on that, and a lot of places do. It's not it, and again, that's something that will form part of the investigation and things to improve to prevent it next time. We don't know the motive yet, other than that it's a potential act of terrorism. He was intentional, and he ran over as many people as he could. I mean, that truck was massive. That truck is deadly. Now they're working to see if there is connection. So just because he had the flag and he had the vest on doesn't mean that he's actually connected to them. He could just be a follower and a lone wolf who's just decided that he is going to do this to try and get some attention from the ISIS organization. Then we know that Biden made a statement. He's been continually briefed on that. And it says the barricades were not up during the attack. So whatever barricades that they had, I don't know if they're any good. Oh no, here we go. So they're saying that steel mechanical barricades were not up prior to the attack. So if they've got steel barricades, why were they not up, and why were they looking at improving them? Because if they're steel, they've got them, they should be up. It says they had the flimsy orange ones that you could push over with your finger, which we thought was kind of odd. Now, Darrell Brooks drove through barricades like that. He went, whoosh. That's the car. Look at it. Just look at it. The New York Times reported that the Ford electric vehicle was owned by a man from Houston, and it was rented on Turo. And police have obviously contacted the lister, who's probably mortified and probably feels awful, even though it's not his fault. You loan your car out, don't you? You rent it or whatever. He can't be blamed. Now, I don't know if what they're saying, if there's anything in those boxes there on the back of the truck. And then there's that thing there. Now, I don't know if that's a flag or not, because I thought that looked like a jacket, but that must be the flag that they're saying, because the way that's hanging, I'm like, that looks like, why has he got a jacket on the back of the car with a hood on it? But it's not. I think that's the flag. Donald Trump. When I said that the criminals coming in are far worse than the criminals in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media. But it turned out to be true. The crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has ever seen before. Our hearts are with all the innocent victims and their loved ones, including the brave officers of the New Orleans PD. The Trump administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this pure act of evil. And again, we've got more. Look at the front of that truck, guys. Look at the front of that truck. Let me come back to the chat a sec. Yeah, it is. It's the way the world is, though. I fear for people in the future. I do. I feel for people in the future. Well, he probably got citizenship. He could have. Well, he could have been born here to migrant families. I mean, we don't know yet. I mean, who knows? It's like what's his name? Ruda Bakana. His parents were immigrants here, but he was born in the UK, so that made him a British citizen. Who knows? We'll find out, though. We will be finding that out, I'm sure. So Trump's calling him an illegal immigrant, but we've been told that he's a US citizen. So which one is it? The truck had crossed into US from Mexico last month. Fox News is reporting that the truck that a man used to slam into the crowd in New Orleans crossed into the US from Mexico through Eagle Pass, Texas, on November 16th. The crossing would have been a legal one, as the truck had a Texas plate. Moreover, it appears the truck was not being driven by the attacker at the time. Fox corrected its earlier report that claimed the truck had crossed the border just 2 days ago. So there's going to be misinformation coming out and then corrections, I guess. But that truck is proper done. And then he's obviously gone and crashed it into something. Like, I think it was like a mini crane, wasn't it? FBI Assistant Special Agent in charge said officials were investigating at least one suspected improvised explosive device at the scene. Sugar Bowl between Georgia and Notre Dame will go ahead on Wednesday night. Really? And then I think these are just old. I'm probably going to say that van is a write-off for that truck. Yeah. So yeah, you can see, and obviously this is just getting updated all the time. But there was supposed to be a press conference. Shamsuddin Yaba, who was flying ISIS flag on truck. So that is so. I looked at that and I kept looking at it and I was like, that looks like a coat, but it must be the flag. Street furniture, interesting name for it. Doesn't really give a fuck what he says. Let me just see if I can find any updates, like as in a new, because what
suspect, according to NBC, who've been talking to people close to the investigation, say that the perpetrator has been preliminarily identified as Shamsuddin Jabbar. Well, we can speak now to the former FBI counterterrorism specialist, Javed Ali, who joins us now. NBC say they do have a name, a preliminary name, but a name nonetheless for the suspect in this case, Shamsuddin Jabbar, 42-year-old. And I guess now law enforcement, counterterrorism officials will be trying to find out as much information as possible about this individual.
So, Sophie, thank you for having me. And yes, now with the name of the perpetrator for the attack, this is going to start another really important aspect of the investigation, trying to find as much information as possible about this person. Who was he? Why did he commit this attack? Was he connected to any other individuals? Was this a lone wolf attack, to use that sort of phrase, or was this is this part of a broader plot or a bigger network? That seems to be an open question as well. But at least with the identity of this particular attacker, that will be a significant basis of the investigation now moving forward.
Is it unusual that they should have identified the suspect, what seems to me, relatively quickly?
Well, having lived through these moments in my own career in government, you're always dealing with imperfect information in a particular moment in time. And even though the attack happened now almost 9 hours ago here locally or in US time, it probably took a while to figure out who this person was. They may or may not have had any identification on them, like a driver's license or anything else. And through whatever means the FBI and other law enforcement agencies use to determine that this person is who's been named, that just takes a while. And now, again, it's a question of why did they do this? How did they do it? How did are they connected to other people? And then starting to sort of broaden the investigation around all those different lines of inquiry or sort of aspects.
It feels that this was a relatively sophisticated attack. The vehicle, of course, used to such devastating impact. 2 weapons, 2 guns found at the scene, according to AP. And then also, of course, these improvised explosive devices that the FBI have mentioned as well. Does it seem to you to be quite a sophisticated incident?
Well, definitely intentional, deliberate, methodical. Now, whether this person was actually a trained operative by a foreign terrorist group, we don't know the answer to that. But this wasn't just someone who was radicalized and angry and got in his car overnight and decided just at first glance, driving around downtown New Orleans, to just ram into people. I mean, there was a level of planning that went into this attack, and it could have actually been worse than it was. And I don't like saying that, but he probably had the capability to do far, far more damage than he actually did. And again, this is another one of these questions. How did this person acquire this capability? How long did it take them to develop it? But it doesn't automatically mean that they were trained or sent or part of a foreign terrorist organization. I mean, maybe they were, but again, that would be too speculative at this point. They could have done it on their own. And again, that will just have to be something that the investigators sift through, and that will take time to get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because it's hard to resist jumping to conclusions here. But as you say, it is important to go by the information that we definitely know to be true at this time. The vehicle itself was used to such tragedy. And we've seen this in the UK as well with some terror incidents. I'm thinking of the Westminster Bridge attack or one in London Bridge as well, where people use cars, they use trucks. How difficult is it to stop attacks like these, where they're using things that they can have legally?
Well, and this is one of the insidious aspects of the jihadist message that developed by the 2010s. And really, ISIS was the pioneer of promoting that aspect of this kind of terrorism, where whatever weapon or implement an extremist has, and to include a car, then just engage in an attack and then claim the attack on behalf of ISIS, even if you weren't formally part of the group, or if you've never been to Iraq and Syria or trained or dispatched. And I was in the Trump White House in 2017 when these vehicle attacks were happening, to include the Westminster Bridge one in London. And then we had one in the United States in October of 2017 that killed 8 people with another ISIS-inspired individual here. So this is part of the ISIS playbook. Doesn't mean that this person themselves was also ISIS-inspired or directed or enabled, but we've seen, going back now almost a decade, that ISIS sort of pioneered the use for jihadist extremists to use vehicles for these ramming attacks. But this person went even further. They had 2 different firearms on them. They had improvised explosive devices. And again, they probably had the capability to do even more damage before they were shot and killed by law enforcement.
You referenced there the previous time that you were in the White House when Donald Trump was there. And I just wondered if we could reflect on the very different responses we've seen from the current president, Joe Biden, who gave exactly the kind of statement that you would expect world leaders to give, that we see all over the world after tragedies like this, saying that his heart goes out to the victims, all the resources will be made available. And the one that we've seen posted by Donald Trump, which is very different in tone, he said, when I said that the criminals coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media, but it turned out to be true. The crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has ever seen before. Do you think we're going to see a very different response to these incidents in the new year with the new president?
Well, I mean, Donald Trump, because he's not president, he's president-elect, but he's not yet, again, back in the Oval Office until January 20th. I mean, he can, as a private citizen, he can say what he wants about these statements. But once he comes back into the White House, at least some aspect of the messaging will be a little more controlled, because when me and others on my NSC National Security Council policy team were in the White House, we would help sort of craft the official statements that President Trump and other senior officials would make in the aftermath of these terrible attacks that were happening both in Europe in that time and then in the United States. But as a president, you can also say what you want, and so we'll see if the tone and the words change from President-elect Trump to President Trump. But there is a part of the machinery in the White House that does try to put out more of these official statements. But then again, what the president themselves can do on top of that, there's not much the National Security Council staff can do to sort of change that message. So it'll be interesting to see if, how much of what we're seeing now sort of carries over when he comes back into office.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear that you, I guess, kind of did have some influence over what Donald Trump, when he was president the first time, would put out in the wake of these kind of incidents. Did he kind of respect that kind of intervention at the time?
Well, what I remember is that, we would sort of craft these official statements that he would then use. But that's like the official statement. Then what he would do to follow up from that, that's not something on the National Security Council staff or the White House staff that we really had influence over. So, we try to put out statements or deliver statements, based on the facts that we knew at the time. But then again, as the president of the United States, they can say what they want. And when certainly it's in a live press conference or on a television interview, there's nothing the staff can do in terms of sort of shaping the narrative or controlling the narrative.
Can I also ask you, we've been talking about the political response. We've also talked about the suspect and the preliminary name that we have and the investigation that will follow there. Can I just finally ask you whether there are questions that need to be asked about the security around New Orleans at the time? Look, this is a busy area. It's an area that they would have known that people would be congregating in, and yet someone was allowed to drive a vehicle around it, murdering people in this way. Is there questions to be asked about security failure there?
Well, it is difficult for me to kind of know specifically what the security protocols were for last night on New Year's Eve or into the New Year's celebration. But this is the challenge of counterterrorism. You're never going to have 100% security at every possible site or location that's even got a small degree of vulnerability. And if you're a committed extremist, whatever your motivation is, and you're behind the wheel of a car and you've got weapons on you, I don't think it was probably that hard for this person to sort of ram through whatever security perimeters were put in place and then get out of the car after they hit people, or this person hit people, and then start shooting. And it's hard for me to second guess what New Orleans had in place. I think the bigger question for the New Year's celebration, I think the bigger question now is there is a major college football game that's about to happen in New Orleans in a few hours. And will that game still proceed as planned? Can FBI and New Orleans Police Department and other law enforcement in New Orleans and Louisiana sort of guarantee the safety of that game? And it was already going to be heavily protected anyways, because it's one of these college football playoff games. But how much more security will have to very quickly be put into place, both on the physical side and any other kind of screening measures, that remains to be seen. But I would have to think for folks in New Orleans right now, that's another immediate priority, is protecting the game, because we don't know how many other people may be out there that could have been associated with this attack from the overnight hours.
Yeah, that's such an important point to make about that college game, the major game that's happening. And as you say, I'm sure the security assessment of that game will have changed in light of the incident that we've seen in the early hours of the morning. Thank you so much for being on the programme and for sharing your expertise and your analysis. We appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sophie.
Well, you're looking now at the latest pictures from New Orleans, where the FBI are investigating an incident that they are describing as a terror incident. At least 10 people killed as a vehicle hits a crowd in New Orleans. Guns found, improvised explosives found as well. 2 police officers wounded in a firefight that left the perpetrator dead. And within the last hour, we have a preliminary name via NBC, Shamsud Din Jabbar, the preliminary name of the suspect in this case, 42-year-old Shamsud Din Jabbar, who was driving that white pickup truck with a pole on the back that there has been some speculation could have been carrying a flag. That is the vehicle where the investigation will be focusing around, the vehicle with the Texas number plate driven, NBC are saying, by a suspect identified as Shamsud Din Jabbar. We're awaiting.
I thought that bad gambler, like, why on earth would you be allowing the game to go ahead, especially if you don't know and haven't managed to kind of catch up with what's going on and knowing for definite whether there's anyone else involved or not? To me, that's a bit risky. But I know what people are like, and I know what organisations are like. They like to do a big fuck you, and we're going to do what we want to do, and you're not going to stop us. Your act just makes us double down, and we're going to do what we need. But you would hope, wouldn't you, that they would not be allowing this game to go ahead. So, as you can see, we've now got a preliminary name. We know they are investigating this as a terror incident. That is the woman that would have been filming the bodies on the floor, not her finest moment. That the investigation is underway. There's believed to be improvised explosives, potential ISIS flag on the back of the truck. Obviously, they're liaising with the truck owner, who will no doubt be absolutely mortified by what's gone down here, using his truck as well. The numbers will probably change for the numbers injured, potentially for the numbers that died. I mean, 10 deaths already noted. I mean, that's one big ass truck. I don't know whether the games will go ahead tonight. You would think not, but you know, we know what organisations are like. They do tend to just do a big FU, don't they? So I will leave that there, and I'll keep abreast on what's going on and do some updates and stuff as we go through. But for now, I mean, we've got a lot of the information. It does seem like it is a potential terror situation. It's now what's involved, who's involved, what connections there are, and that kind of thing. So I will see you guys soon on my TikTok this evening, where we will be updating on John George, missing John George. I will do another John George video tomorrow to update in a fuller, longer video. I've got a couple that I'm updating on my TikTok, but we will talk about John George this evening, and then we'll look at Gypsy's Book of Bollocks. Although we might give her a night. Oh no, she's had the baby, so it's been a couple of days, isn't it? Probably around, I don't know, 9:30ish. We'll go on, and because there's been a few things going on in the background there, and we didn't really touch on it last night because it was New Year, so we will do an update. But other than that, guys, stay safe and have a good rest of your day. And as I said, Happy New Year to you all. Thank you all for being here, coming in and supporting, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I keep forgetting about that whole like and subscribe if you've not subscribed, but definitely make sure you like the live, because that helps me massively. But I will see you guys again soon, and as I get updates, I'll post shorter videos on them, and then if this goes up, you know, depending on what happens, we'll do longer ones. But that's it from me, guys. I will see you guys very, very soon. Stay safe. Bye, everyone.